Welcome back to the Phantom Empire YouTube channel. This is House of the Empire live Monday, June the 1st, 2026, about 9:19 p.m. Eastern Time here, and nothing like being mid-intro and your software crashes. So, said a word tonight. Two of us have had massive issues. Way to go, Restream. Joining us tonight, he missed our little impromptu show the other night, but he's back. He's going to have a chance to chime in on this Halloween news. There's a ton of Star Wars to get to tonight. And dare I say, for the first time in the history of any of our shows, this guy is going to give probably an abbreviated but exclusive review on a Scream movie by himself. It is the general himself. It's McFizz. Gianni, what's going on, man?
Not a whole lot of anything. I'm excited. We got a lot of stuff to talk about tonight. Yeah, I mean, even the Scream review that I didn't know I was giving until you gave me the notes this afternoon. That's gonna be fun.
Oh, I couldn't have you watch that abyss of a movie and not come in here and share some of your thoughts. Like that would just feel wrong, right? Like if you had to share thoughts on Zombies once upon a time, then I feel like sharing thoughts on Scream 7, I mean, according to you, should be a walk in the park, right? Like, because it was no Zombies, as you said privately. But the question is, how bad was it? And we'll get to that in not too long. It now won't let me switch any of our windows either. So this software is working just fine and dandy tonight. I also want to give a big shout out to our audience last week, live and after the live show. It's the best numbers we've done in a couple of months. And I really appreciate how engaged everybody was with the Halloween discussion, but also the Star Wars episodes 10, 11, and 12 discussion. So thank you for that. Also joining us this evening, he's lacking his vitamins today, so who knows what's going to come out of his mouth tonight. It's the Grand Moff himself. Randy, what's happening, man?
Well, Monday be Mondaying like always, clearly for you guys, considering this software is just loving you. But yeah, it's been one of them Mondays. But I will say I was digging the title card. I love the 80s VHS box. Yeah, I was digging that.
I would love to take credit for it, but all I did was punch some words into ChatGPT because when you're busy as shit, you don't have time to whip together a 45-minute thumbnail anymore. You want to be able to spend some more time on the show, and you got to divide your time up a little better. And yeah, also anyone who is in the chat tonight, feel free to chime in, send your thoughts in, any questions you might have, send them in too. We would love to hear from you. We got a heavy slate tonight. I cannot access the show notes or it's going to kick me. Johnny, is there any way that you can maybe run down the topics quickly of what we're going to discuss and likely the order we're going to discuss them in? I'll give you a second to pull them up. And when I'm giving you that second, I just kind of thought of something. Johnny gets issues all the time with Restream. I have issues with Restream all the time. When Dustin is on here, he has issues with Restream. But Randy, you seem to not have many issues with Restream, and I kind of gotta wonder if there's some funny business going on here.
I mean, I've been kicked a couple times, but that's usually about it.
Oh, right, that one night where you kept getting kicked.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't really have too many issues, surprisingly. But of course, now that we've said it, it's going to start happening to me. We all know this.
I don't know. Usually, you're the one who provides the jinx. Like last week, when I actually had camera for a little while, and you commented on it, and 20 minutes later, my camera was out again.
I have camera, but you just can't see me very well.
All right. So I pulled up the notes here. I'll just read them off sort of in the order you have them here. All right, we got the Halloween 50th anniversary movie. The TV series, Twist in Crystal Lake, my thoughts on Scream 7, the Star Wars news from Deadline and Company, the Starfighter plot details, Star Wars Jedi 3, the Mando and Grogu box office, Star Wars if Starfighter flops, and the Halloween game news that came out today.
Yeah. If you haven't yet, I didn't send. Well, maybe I did send a link in the chat. I honestly don't remember. It's been a long day.
You
But
did. It was a pain
you
in the
did.
butt because it was
Oh, was it?
it was a link to the Twitter, which the link in the Twitter led to their link tree, which led back to the.
God.
Yeah.
When I clicked on it, I was actually able to watch it. I maybe got taken down.
Oh, it was official, I think.
Yeah, no, it was. If you followed the link tree, it would take you to the official Halloween game website, which was where I watched the trailer. So it's still up there. Might be the tweets is borked.
We are starting with Halloween and end with Halloween, so you have all show to sneak away for a couple minutes and watch that, Randy. I won't have any ability to pull it up on my phone here, unfortunately, but
I still have the window open, so just copy the link and send it directly.
That'd be cool. I will say.
I mean, I watched it earlier, so I mean, I did.
Oh, I thought you said you didn't watch it.
Well, there's also a whole bunch of like actual like word description in the official.
I did
well. Yeah.
That. Maybe you can walk us through that little topic to end the show later. I'll say I'm impressed. I thought it looked good. But we'll save any further thoughts for later. Excuse me, by the way, that was rude. All right, I was doing my best Johnny impression, burping on air. So
that's a skill. You just don't have it.
No, I don't. You know what skill I do have? Getting suckered in paying $20 for popcorn buckets for terrible movies. Thank you for that, by the way. Anyways, yeah, so about a month ago now, and it went under the radar, Slasher Horror Mag, which is credited when you Google them and search up how reliable they are. They've been fairly spot on with a lot of their reports. Came out and said their sources are saying that the Halloween TV series, and again, for some of you that tuned into our stream, I don't know if we did this Thursday or Wednesday last week. Can't remember. I think it was Thursday. So we'll recap some of it, but there's definitely some more to go over. Is shelved. I know there was people rushing to social media to be like, it's canceled. It's never happening. And who knows, it might not ever happen. But to be clear, the sources that we spoke with say it's shelved, not canceled, but put on the back burner. That doesn't mean it won't be outright canceled, though. And since then, Discuss and Film had a little piece on it, and the Slasher Radio guys covered it, and it does seem as if there is, as I said last week, some fire where all that smoke's coming from. And I'll give him credit twice just because he's been calling it for almost 2 years now. Randy's been saying, look, you're going to have to pick one or the other if you want to do a 2028 film. And Randy's been saying this since probably late 2024. Randy said several times that you either got to choose the TV show or the movie. The likelihood of doing both before an H50 is due, likely in October of 2028, is, well, not likely. And Randy, once again, I give you your flowers, man. It seems as if you might be right. So we'll just kick the show off reacting to the news from multiple sources that, including our own, that the TV series has been apparently shelved. And look, we haven't heard anything on an official level with the TV series in over 2 years since Miramax or Trancas has commented on it, and we covered the big switch that happened behind the scenes where the head of Miramax Television, not Jim Hellwig, pardon me, that's the Ultimate Warrior, Mark Hellwig, I don't know if he was fired or left the position or what, but he was the guy behind purchasing the rights to the Halloween TV series. I can't remember the girl's name who came in and took over. But it's like a sports team. I made this analogy last week. You get a new GM or a president of hockey ops or football ops or whatever. They usually want to go over everything and then do their own thing, not just continue someone else's. I know that's how Lucasfilm operates, but most companies don't operate that way. Randy, we'll get to you second, but Johnny, you didn't get to give your thoughts on this. Are you surprised at all that it sounds like they're steering their attention towards a 50th anniversary movie? And for you personally, which one, if you had to choose, which one would you want more?
I mean, I'm not entirely surprised, mostly because, let's be honest, as far as like, production budget versus profits, Halloween has traditionally been a phenomenal series for that. Like even the bad movies are made for a low enough budget that they still make a very good profit in the box office, right? So I think that obviously plays a factor because, TV is a much different animal profit wise. It's much more, I don't want to say scattered, but, depending on the format and the deal you have, it is much more difficult for someone who's not, a TV production juggernaut, right? Like,
Frankly, it's downright hard to understand.
exactly, like especially in the streaming era versus the modern television era where you have advertising revenues and things of that nature. Now it's just streamers, and especially for a project like this, it's not going to end up on a traditional broadcast network. I don't think that was ever in the cards for this. So obviously it would go to a streaming service, and the profit is much more, I don't want to say how much are they willing to pay for it, but that's kind of what it boils down to. You're stuck. It's a fixed number, right? Like there's no wiggle room. There's no surprise box office success in a TV series versus a show. Your profit is your profit, and that's what it is. It's whether or not you can have long-term success, right? The profit comes in the longer the show's on the air, obviously, and that's a much different animal where to make the amount of money they would make from a 50th anniversary film versus a successful television series, the years are exponentially different, right? Like, a smash hit in the box office could bring them easily 9 figures. A smash hit on television would take them anywhere between 5 to 10 years to make that kind of profit. So it's like, I definitely understand it from a financial standpoint. I think the capital outlay would also be smaller for a movie versus a TV series because of, additional costs on the back end. And, cost per episode is exponentially different versus the cost of film, right? So I think, I think the money is what matters here, especially. They spent the time thinking about it, and they're not as far along in the process for the TV series as they would have liked. Like you said, this project has been something that's been going for, I think the first time we started hearing whispers of it was like 5 years ago.
So Halloween Ends came out in 2022, and I would say maybe 2 months after that movie came out, we heard the next step would be a TV series. So it's been a while. Then they made the official announcements towards the end of 2023.
So we're years into this, and they are, so far away from anything probative that, it makes sense for them to segue because, let's be honest, there are probably a lot more good movie pitches than there are TV pitches. Because the difference in product is so vast that, I think it's easier for them to shift focus. And, you can still keep the TV on the back burner, obviously. They're not going to abandon all the, capital costs they've put into it so far. But, if you shift your focus now, it makes so much more sense. You can use that. And hopefully, let's be honest, if you are successful with the 50th anniversary film, that can cure a lot of ills in the fan base. It'll also put the fan base on a much more happy outlook heading into the series than we are coming out of Ends. because coming out of ends, you'd just be you're marching, uphill, and that's hard. It would be much harder for them to regain the fan base instead of going out giving us a solid film outing for 50th anniversary, and then you build back up your goodwill with the fan base, you rebuild your financial coffers. It's an entirely different ball game heading into a series where you can be a bit more, I don't want to say creative, but you can be a bit more, not necessarily out of the box, but you can think more and do more creative things versus Friday the 13th, which just threw everything they had at the TV series instead of the movies, right? So like that's the difference. So I'm not surprised they're shifting focus. I think it's a smarter financial decision, and at the end of the day, that's what matters most to the people who control this thing.
Yeah, they need to be able to make a buck. Like it's Trancas's specifically main form of finances, right? So
Yeah.
I also think the success of Alien Earth and Welcome to Derry probably hurt Halloween, if anything. Like, yes, you want to.
It raised the bar on what they have to provide.
Sure, absolutely. Like, you can't. We talked about this before. Do something half-ass with what those two shows did, and then get away with it. Essentially, that's hard to do. In terms of your preference, quickly here, are pro H50 or pro TV series?
I'm pro quality. I mean, I really don't care how you present it to me. Whether that's a movie or a TV series, I genuinely don't care.
So you don't want to see Michael Myers run through a meat grinder?
I don't want to. No, I don't want to see
Okay.
that. I saw that once. I don't need to see it again. Thank you.
Yeah.
Not unless it's in service of a story. Like you could make something like that a great story, but like
Yeah, I mean it was. It was in service of the Jamie Lee Curtis. Sorry, the Halloween Ends.
Oy vey.
In fairness, I will take this moment to say our condolences are out to Jamie Lee Curtis and her family. I did read her sister just passed away, so that's as much as I may not like her behind the scenes meddling. I never want to see a family go through loss or be in pain. So we definitely give our well wishes to her entire family and everybody affected by the loss of her sister. Randy, we'll come back to you here, man. We had a chance to talk about this the other day. I don't know if you've thought about it at all, but you called it with the one or the other likely having to happen before 2028 instead of both. Now that it appears it will be a movie, do you have a preference with what they do with the 50th anniversary movie? Let's say it's a clean slate. Obviously, be a little realistic. John Carpenter's not going to direct H50, so let's throw that out the window now. Doesn't mean he won't be a part of the project in some way, but realistic expectations. Is there anything you want to see?
I mean, in regard to the movie itself, obviously what we want is, I would say, a nice cohesive story. But the thing is what are people going to want? They're going to want Michael. They're going to want a lot of Michael, which, it makes sense. But also, you want to get people to go to the theater. You want to get people to see the movie. And so, obviously bringing some star power. We discussed a little bit last week, maybe kind of have a sequel, uh, going the direction of a sequel to H2O potentially, or something of that nature. We need something that's going to give us the type of mayhem that Michael can cause, but also uh, be relevant enough that people are still going to, other than just diehard fans, because one of the things we know is going to happen to diehard fans will go see the movie. It's bringing in the next generation. That's always going to be a huge thing. We see a lot of franchises trying to do it, is bring in a new generation of fans, making, and that's hit or miss depending on, like we know that Star Wars is trying to do that, and some movies are great, some TV shows are great. A lot of misses though, but still, and horror's the same way. Which is, of course, it's strange. You have other properties like A Nightmare on Elm Street that hasn't really had anything. Friday 13th is getting a TV series instead of a movie. Uh, I really would have loved a sequel to the 2009 movie just because that was such a great movie, and it would have been a lot of fun to see where they went with that. I felt like Derek Mears had a lot left to give as Jason, but that's for a different topic and a different day. Uh, I feel like what we need right now is, and obviously since we don't have a story yet, which is kind of a shame, but obviously they could take stuff from the Taking Shape book series if they wanted to. There's a lot of good ideas in there, or at least take something and kind of turn it in, mold it and meld it into something that's going to become a decent film. But ultimately, what do we always want to see when it comes to any slasher movie? Just some really cool kills, some unique kills. Obviously, we got a new bar to set for what Michael Myers can do. Just not too crazy. But yeah, story wise, I don't know. It's going to be interesting because I don't really want to rehash. We've seen, Rob Zombie take his shot at it. We've seen, you know, Gordon Green do his thing with Halloween. But I don't want a shot for shot remake or we're going to get something like Nightmare on Elm Street. We don't need that. That's just a disservice to the fans if you do something like that. But maybe something set.
Johnny loves that movie.
I'm gonna kindly request you shut the fuck up.
I feel like what we really need is just maybe something to freshen things up a little bit. Give us something maybe more of a modern twist, but not a full rehash. But give us some pointers. I realize that everybody's gonna be like, oh, Dr. Loomis. We can't. It's hard to recast that, but I think it's time. I think we need someone who can take up that mantle and go into the future with it, because I feel like if you can find someone who can portray Loomis very well, then casting someone as Michael Myers isn't as big of a thing as finding the foil to Michael Myers. So I feel like a new Loomis with maybe more Loomis story versus just him trying to track down Michael. I feel like that could really help things. If they're not going to do it in a TV series, let's have it in the movie. Let's start. Let's give us more Loomis that leads into chasing down Michael. Something that's new but familiar. I think that would work really well, and give us a solid story with good character development, because we know that's not usually what happens in horror movies, but this is one of those rare exceptions where you could get that.
Not that you ask, but if I had to watch Mandalorian and Grogu again in the Nightmare remake, I'm watching the Nightmare remake, and I'm being dead serious. That's yeah.
I don't know if I could go that far.
I think Johnny's going to commit seppuku if you had to give him that decision.
I've said it before. I think the guy that gets the most, like the worst rap for that movie is Jackie Earle Haley. I think he did.
I think he did a great job.
I think he did absolutely the best he could have with what he was given. So, like the other day we talked about, 50th anniversary. Would you do H50 like you did H2O? And if you can't get Jamie Lee Curtis back, which God no, please no. Unless they're going to run her through a meat grinder in the first 5 minutes of the movie. Josh Hartnett, I think, is a real target who still has a name. He's not going to blow you up at the box office, but there are still people that go see films because he's in it. He's expressed interest in returning in recent years. I just don't think you can do like this is the direct sequel to Halloween H2O. I think it would have to be like, I think you cut out Resurrection. But I think you do something that just kind of loosely alludes to what happened with H2O, and it's mainly a new story with Josh Hartnett at the lead, and his family and Michael Myers. I thought a lot about that. I know people brought up the H4 idea, and you know me, I love H4, but I don't think it's realistic. Nor does Danielle Harris carry the cachet to market an H50 movie. I'm just accepting the fact that an H50 movie, if it's not starring her, I expect Jamie Lee Curtis and John Carpenter to have EP titles, unfortunately. I think Trancas and Miramax will probably do what they can to make that happen. Again, unfortunately. Not unfortunate if John Carpenter does the music, though. Excellent music. But I think I've changed my mind. Like on Thursday, I said the thing I'd like to see most was the Hartnett thing. But the more I've thought about it, and the more, looking at what's going on with the Mandalorian and Grogu, and we'll talk about that shortly. Johnny mentioned it earlier. You got to be able to make some money. So if you're going to do this movie, you probably got to make it for very little money. Halloween 2018 cost $10 million. I'm going to say Halloween 50, you're probably looking at somewhere between 5 and 15 million. And they'd probably like it closer to that 10 mark again, where they spend, an additional, 40-50 million dollars on marketing and distribution fees. And that way, $60 million breaks you even. Because I don't think, even for an H50 film, I don't think, even with it being the 50th anniversary, that this film, no matter what you do, is going to generate the revenue of the David Gordon Green films. I think it's massively unrealistic. I think the high bar is what Johnny said. I think if you get to 100,000 worldwide, you have a big hit on your hands for this. It ain't making 255 again. It's not making 150 and change or 130 and change. I don't
I think. Did you mean 100 million?
Yeah.
Okay, you
I
said
was gonna say, if it
100,000.
only made
I was very
100,000,
confused by that number.
Sorry, 100 million. 100 million. If they can make 75 million, 80 million, and net 15 to 25 million dollars profit before merchandising, then I think they'd consider that a win. And it probably opens the possibility for sequels. And that's why I think the best way to go is a all new story. You can bring back Michael Myers. It can be set in the year 2028, 50 years to the day of the original killings. That would make sense. And people might be like, well, the guy is fucking 71 years old. Now, let me tell you, I know a few 71-year-olds who could go around kicking some ass. But it's also like, don't answer that question. Don't answer the question if he's human or if he's the shape or more. Leave it shrouded in mystery and darkness. It's just boom. Michael Myers is back. All new story, all new characters, loosely, and I mean very loosely, reference the events of the original movie. You don't even need to name people involved. You don't need to have a Laurie name drop or a Loomis name drop. It could be, the crazy doctor or whatever gets mentioned. And just have it be new characters. A story that stands on its own. And is this 71-year-old man going around and killing people who's just super fit and buff, or is there more to him? And then you can continue to make more movies on this timeline that doesn't have a definitive ending, and you're not tied to, well, we got to do this, or this superstar actress is refusing to do this story and that story, and she's vetoing this and vetoing that. You go relatively new. Like, obviously, you're going to want a name, right? I know in the early days of the Halloween TV series, when things were just getting going, one of the names they were considering was Sydney Sweeney. There's a tongue twister of a name. But I think the best route is just to do something new and to have the only central figure returning being the Shape himself. What about you, Johnny? Where do you stand with this?
I think there are a lot of interesting ways you can go with this. I think you could basically throw it all out and start from a point of your choosing. Restart the canon again. Pick your point. Do you want to go all the way back to 1? Do you want to go pre-1? You want to go after 2? No, you want to go after 5? After H2? Well, like you can pick and choose where you want this to go and what kind of story you want it to be. And I think that's the interesting part is how do you do it? Like, I like the idea of Michael being more boogeyman again, and if you don't want to go full down the like mystical route, you can do that. But there are options for ways you can, bring it back to make it more.
Hear me out before you go any further and tell me what you think of this. Because you
Okay.
mentioned Michael being pure boogeyman. So in Halloween H2O, even though it doesn't really logistically line up, the events of Halloween 1 and 2 happen.
Mhm.
In Halloween 2018, only the events of Halloween 1 happen. But we know where Michael's been. He's been incarcerated.
Right.
What if in this version he just vanished that night the way the movie was originally intended to be? Was that the boogeyman? And as a matter of fact, it was, or I think it was. And he's just never heard from again for 50 years. There's no chain of events that happened in that time. Just boom, he pops back up like a, some sort of weird urban myth.
See, I'm not against it because like the idea, like the thing that's been kind of going through my head was, it's an episode of Supernatural that keeps coming up in my head. It was earlier in the run. I want to say it was pre-Kripke leaving. It was the Blue Oyster Cult episode with the Blue Oyster Cult logo. The one where like the fear of the thing becomes the thing. The haunted house thing.
Man, I should be able to pull this, and I'm struggling.
You talking about the Ghostfacers episode?
Yeah, this might have. I think this was the first Ghostfacers episode. Yeah.
Oh yeah, sorry, it was before they were actually Ghostfacers.
Yeah.
Were,
Texas Hell House.
That's funny. The other week, I actually looked up what it was, and I know that there's a name for it too.
But like that's kind of the idea that keeps coming up in my head is the fear of the thing becomes the thing. Like I like and
If
it
enough
plays,
people
it plays
believe in
very
it,
ni- yeah,
it becomes
it plays
real.
perfectly well off your idea of going back to the end of H218 and making that your jumping off point. Just have him disappear in the fire and leave the question, and then you can have the boogeyman be the boogeyman, and it kind of like you almost sort of take a riff of the original Friday the 13th sort of within that, right? Like where you kind of like you spend the whole movie believing it's Jason, and then surprise, it's his mother. And then the movie ends with Jason coming back up from the water, and you go from there. Now, obviously, I don't want it to be exactly that because that'd be stupid and clearly a blatant ripoff that nobody wants that. But like, I like that idea of it, like of the mystery and playing on the boogeyman. Because it works so well. Like if people start dying in Haddonfield around Halloween in ways that are similar to how Michael killed his victims, people are going to assume, they're going to wonder, they're going to question. And you have sort of the facts of, he died, we killed him. Whether that's, recasting, the family or if they want to come back or whatever. You have that sort of play off the thing. Like I like the idea of sort of playing in different elements with that story. Like at that point, you could kind of like, and don't get me wrong, right away you're gonna be like, oh, Jamie Lee Curtis. But like, I like the idea of her sort of playing a Cotton from Scream 2, being like you see her on TV. She's not part of the film, but she's part of the world at large, and you can play that element up. That like we killed him, we killed the boogeyman, like she, and again it's cliched, but like she wrote a book, How I Killed the Boogeyman, because the story plays this, and she was right. She's proven right in this big way.
Hang on a second. Sorry, I must have got lost there. You're suggesting Jamie Lee Curtis come back?
Not in not in proper.
But it be in the film.
Barely.
Yeah, but what starts out as barely could end up as a lot more.
Yeah,
So
I need to do this and I need to do that, and this doesn't work for me.
But let's be honest. It's like if that's the role, like I'm not saying bring her back with creative control and all that kind of shit. Like this is the pitch. This is we want you to be a part of this, but it's a very small part. It's an homage. It's it's a I don't want to say it's a thank you, but it's a nice check to do very little work to just have your name on the bill.
But your idea is to make Michael a tulpa, essentially, where everybody the fear of him finally creates him.
If you decide you want to bring him back in physical, you can do that, and you can be a bit more, you can sort of lean into the supernatural and reestablish the cult of Thorn and bring them back into the mainline canon.
This is the original idea for Halloween 4 that's covered in Taking Shape 2.
Yeah,
like this exact thing. Yeah.
So I mean, it's.
Michael grows into a giant guy walking through 12-foot Michael Myers.
Yeah, let's not do that. Theater, but
the rest of it was pretty good. Yeah, I don't mind it, but oh man, I don't know, man. I almost wanted.
I think you could survive seeing Jamie Lee Curtis on a TV screen for 30 seconds, where she's in the background of another scene, of other characters talking.
I am not at all convinced that, and I mean at all convinced that she would settle for that, shall you say?
Yeah, that's the thing. If she doesn't, then it's not like it's a hard. You don't even need her in the story at that point. Like you just have the book on a shelf. How I Killed the Boogeyman by Laurie Strode. There you go. You could achieve the same universe congregation without actually having her. Because let's be honest, she wouldn't be on the front cover. It'd probably be Michael.
Well, I mean, it's an idea. Let's move on here. We just spent 40 minutes, or a little less than 40 minutes, but on that topic, so we're gonna have to rapid fire some of this stuff. Johnny, what's next on the slate?
The Crystal Lake twist.
Well, I think the other one
was
the Halloween TV series. And if it was ever going to happen, my answer, I'll keep it short.
Oh,
I know these people are going to, people are going to be like, yeah, for sure. It's going to happen one day. It's going to happen one day. I'll be honest. I'm very 50-50. I know that's not a great answer, but I'm not convinced it's guaranteed to happen one day, given everything that's happened to this point. That would be my answer.
I think if Crystal Lake is a smashing success, then there will. Will it be in any way similar to the ideas and thoughts we've been, discussing for the last nearly 5 years? Probably not. But I think there'll be something.
Randy?
Well, when does Welcome to Derry season 2 come out? 'Cause I feel like between
I don't know if they have a date, do they?
Not yet.
So I bet it'll probably come out before a Halloween TV series. So you got to figure you'll have 2 seasons of that. You'll have you'll have 2 seasons of Alien Earth. You're going to have a season of Crystal Lake. And if they feel like they can't match that quality, let's say Crystal Lake is a success and it's just the bar is set so high that they don't feel like they could put a story together that's going to at least give at least be on par with those series. I don't see it happening. And so, but I guess, we'll have to wait and see down the road. I think it's going to really be based on what horror TV gives us, especially with a couple of season 2s and season 1 of Crystal Lake. I guess we just have to wait and see how those pan out. And if they pan out well, ball's in their court to see if they feel like they can create something that's going to have that level of quality, because that's really going to be important. Because that's the last thing you want is for all these shows to come out and be great, and then Halloween just be subpar or average and kind of kill any momentum a lot of those TV shows have.
Quick Google search while you were talking says, "Welcome to Dairy Season 2 is targeted for end of 27, early 28." Obviously, that's Google. It's grok accumulation, but that's what it aggregated. So, did we lose you, or are you still here?
I was muted.
Okay.
I know they've spoken a little bit on it recently, so I'll have to see what happens with that. What's next on the agenda?
The Crystal Lake twist.
So, Robert Meyer Burnett, known film editor, co-host of John Campea show, popular guy down on the movie Trivia Schmodown days, Christian Harloff and them. I listen to some of his content. Sometimes it's out there. Sometimes his opinions are a little far-fetched, but I really enjoy what he does. He vaguely put out there, why do we need to change the origin story for Jason Voorhees just to do a Crystal Lake TV series? Who the hell asked for, and I'm paraphrasing because I don't have it in front of me here. Who the hell asked for the army or whatever doing experiments on kids to be the backstory? I have no idea if any of that is true. It could be completely false. But what I do want to say is when you go back and do a remake or a prequel or whatever, you're doing something in a different vein, you should do something different. You should change it up. Do I like Rob Zombie's films? I hate to admit that his second film is a bit of a guilty pleasure for me to watch for all the wrong reasons, as I've said over the years here. But I was happy he did something different. I don't want to see a carbon copy of, the first Halloween movie that's just someone mimicking John Carpenter and what he did, or a carbon copy of the first Friday the 13th movie. Do something different. Does it mean I'm going to totally like the direction of the story, that whatever they'd end up doing? No, not necessarily. But I'll give them points for swinging the bat and doing something different. This is a franchise that's been dead in the water for 17 fucking years, who just had whatever that fucking apple pie farm shit was last year. And, the guys from Womp Stomp Film are the main reason this franchise is still relevant. So do something different. I'm all board. I'm on board for something different. I don't know if there's anything to that vague tweet that he put out. I don't know if he's in the know. No idea. But I'm totally on board for, you shouldn't do the exact same thing. This shouldn't just be Friday the 13th Part 1 spread over 8 episodes. That's dumb. We've seen it. We don't need it.
I don't mind like when you're remaking or rebooting or anything, prequeling or anything like that. I don't mind experimentation as long as it's experimentation in, I don't want to say in canon, but like in spirit, right? Like I don't want something that's so far out of left field that it's like, yeah, that just don't jive with the story you've told. Like it doesn't, it has to feel right in the universe it's in, right? Like that's the big thing for me. And I don't mind, like, you talk about the Rob Zombie movies. Like, I think the first one was fine because it was different. It was unique. It was a unique telling of the canon in a way that fit. Like, it was different but fit. And then the second one was a parody of the first one, which got lost. Rob Zombie got lost in the sauce on H2, and it went off the rails completely. But doing something like this, I don't, if there's one thing Friday the 13th doesn't give you is answers. Like there's no knowledge of Jason and how he comes back out of the lake, how he continues to thrive and survive and, come back from all the things he comes back from. There's no, there's no knowledge of that. There's no answers to that. It's just, it exists. So like, I don't mind them trying to give answers as long as those answers make sense. Like, and that's going to be the key is execution, right? Like, on its face, I don't have any issues with that. How they explain it, like if they're going to suddenly have a whole bunch of kids who possess the ability to do the things Jason did, that's a problem for me, because you can't have multiples. But like,
It's an army of Jasons.
but like if you sort of make Jason into this sort of unicorn in that it worked for him, it didn't work for anyone else, and kind of, I don't want to say try and explore that, but like use that as your unicorning. And it does sort of explain in later canon. Obviously, the canon itself goes off the rails considerably in the 90s, but like, it explains sort of the military interest. It explains even as far in the future as Jason X, why they'd try and keep him around to try and extract that uniqueness that allows him to be, that could allow him to be sort of the super soldier, as it were, right? Like, it's plausible enough that I don't hate it on its face, but again, execution. I can sit here and say like, I don't know, something smells fishy, but like, can you make it work? And I'll be interested, because that I enjoy. Because you're right. I don't just want you to take Friday the 13th and just tell me that story again in 8 parts. I don't want that. I don't want that at all. You need to do something unique. Like, that's why Welcome to Derry is special, because they do something unique, within that canon that works, that fits. It fits within the Stephen King story. It fits perfectly within the films. Like, it works. And when it works, it works. But until we see it, we won't know if it works.
So I feel like for me, I was always fine with the idea of getting to more of a prequel, establishing Pamela more, getting an idea, just kind of, and we get to see her go through it, from being just a mother doing whatever she can to provide for her boy to basically going on a murderous rampage. At least that's what I'm thinking is pretty much going to happen here. Anything we ever got with Pamela was always comics, maybe a couple of novels here and there, and the Pamela Voorhees tapes that were in the Friday the 13th video game. That's it. That's all we ever really had when it came to her. And if this is going to give us something more of what they're going to consider canon for her, I'm all for it, because even though we have the original movie, we've seen like the psychotic side of her. We don't know that part of her that led up to that snap. And I feel like that's something that is worth exploring. Now, what they do with Jason in this is going to be interesting, I'm sure, but we're going to see Jason start to kind of grow up and just be a little kid. That's something that we've really never seen either. I'd be a little more concerned about if they decide to start rehashing the first film by the end. But I feel like you're talking about execution. If it's done well enough, it's not the total end of the world. I would say it's more or less um, just that familiarity, and give you a bit of a payoff on some potential expectations. But for the most part, I'm just in it for the story, and I'm kind of hoping that, given what we saw with Welcome to Derry, that maybe, just maybe, there's some real potential here to have a really solid story that could show great character development and a lot of cool kills, and on top of it, which is all something you always hope for a horror movie. I mean, Welcome to Derry, obviously. I'm hoping it's not the exception to the rule. I'm hoping it's the new standard that all horror shows are going to kind of strive to become, in terms of just character development, story, just a certain level that horror fans deserve. And we're starting to see it more and more in movies too. Think about the movies that came out, this weekend with Obsession. Well, not Obsession, but Backrooms. That apparently is actually really well done. It has a lot of real cool, creepy moments. but we're starting to finally see that quality that we deserve as horror fans that we normally never that we didn't get when we were younger. We really didn't get it. So the bar is high, the way I look at it, and I'm really hoping they deliver something unique and just captivating, something that's going to keep me satiated through 8 episodes.
I will apologize ahead of time. I am now driving. Hands-free device, obviously, but I live in the middle of nowhere, so my connection might come and go here. So as long as Johnny pays attention to the topics, whatever ones you can actually carry on to, feel free if I break out here, but I think I'm through the worst of it. Johnny, what do we got next, man?
Oh, next up we got Scream 7. So yeah, I got to watch Scream 7 for the first time. It was Friday night, Saturday night. This
Johnny
past
not
weekend.
hear me? I can't hear him.
We can hear you, but I guess you can't hear us.
I can hear you,
but you can't hear me.
I can't hear Johnny though if he's talking.
Hey, that happened last week.
Night. This again, huh? This old chestnut. Well, that's wonderful. It's going to be unfortunate for him that he's going to miss this, because he put this in the notes kind of for himself. Can you hear me again?
Yes, I can.
Okay, wonderful. It's Scream 7 time.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll enjoy.
So
running way over time.
I this past weekend had the opportunity to watch Scream 7 for the first time because it was Friday night or Saturday night. I think Friday night, and I was bored. And I'm scrolling through the different streamers and looking for just something to watch. And I come to Paramount Plus and I see a whole bunch of things there. They've got all the scary movies, which I just watched earlier in the week to get ready for the new movie this weekend. I see Scream 7 is now streaming on Paramount Plus. So I'm like, I'm bored. I got nothing else to watch. Let's watch this movie. And I did. And I watched it. And I told you guys that I was going to be watching it. And I did. And I cannot be more thankful that I had a pre-existing Paramount Plus membership. Because that is the only thing that saves me from saying I didn't hate it. Because I didn't pay a damn thing for it. Like that's the inherentness. The freeness makes up for everything bad. Because I knew it was a terrible movie going in. I had every review I've heard, every review I've said this is not a good movie. So I didn't go into it expecting a good movie. I went into it expecting a bad movie. And as happens sometimes, bad movies can be fun movies because they're bad. This is an example of that. I laughed at this movie. It's a horror movie, and I'm laughing at it because it is so unbelievable in its ridiculousness. Like, right off the rip, within 15 minutes, I'm like, what are we doing with this? Like, we spent a lot of time discussing how we were going to have Matthew Lillard in the movie and how it was going to work when he was recast. And we ended up with the AI stuff, and that's what it was. And it was just not good.
I love the call you sent me. I chuckled.
And like, it just, nothing played. Like, even the gruesome kills were just laughably humorous to me. And the way they tried to play the relationships were just terrible. Like, at the beginning, I was thinking, oh, we're doing Scream 1 again. It's the boyfriend. Because they set up all the cues, right? They set everything up to make you think it's the boyfriend. You play with the AI, the computer skills, the interest. All of these things are just so blatantly pointing to him that within 20 minutes, I'm like, well, clearly it's not him, even though they're going to spend the rest of this movie trying to convince me it's him. And they did exactly that. I'll admit, I spent most of the movie playing so who is it actually going to be game? Who's the actual killer? I'll admit, completely caught me out of left field. I didn't expect either of the people it ended up being. Mostly because at the end of the movie, I'm looking at it, and the only one I had any vivid memory of, despite having spent the last hour and 40 minutes watching the movie, was the mother. Guy had no memory.
Oh, see, I knew the orderly 100% as soon as they did the scenes there.
he just didn't register to me at all as like any sort of significance, to the point that when he reveals the mask, I actually had to pause it and look and be like, who the fuck are you? Like, the mother I got, it actually made sense in the end, in sort of that, oh, you spent so long pointing at her son for it to be her. Okay, that's different-ish. Not good, but different. And then the orderly is just like, who are you again? Why should I care about you being the guy? Like, I had no interest in any of it, and I just laughed so hard. Like, the way they tried to drum up interest in the interplay between Gale and Sydney, just, oh my god, it was so forced.
Sydney!
Everything about that was so like, with the interview and the coming out of it, and you know, and the Dewey and all of it, just like, oh my god, just stop trying to make this a thing. These two characters have been through 6 movies of literal hell, and you're going to try and stick a wedge in there now? For what purpose? I couldn't.
I'm so glad Timothy Olyphant didn't prostitute himself for this film.
Oh man, I love Joel McHale, but like, woof, the material was so bad in so much of that. Like, they get to the point in the film towards the end where
Also, him having the same name as Patrick Dempsey's character from 3, who we were believed she had ended up with.
also same profession, right?
Yeah, exactly.
He was also a cop.
We couldn't switch it up a little.
Oh man, it was ridiculous. Like, having the daughter behind the wall shooting through, like, with the cameras, I'm just sitting there like, what kind of military grade tech do you have that is instantaneous enough that you can feel confident telling your daughter when to shoot through a wall at someone trying to kill her? Like, I couldn't with that. I couldn't with some, like, the only thing I was hoping was that we were going to get, you know, like when they set it up in the garage with the garage door, I think I'm like, oh cool, we're gonna redo the kill, so the daughter's gonna get the kill of her namesake, which, like, okay, that'd be funny in like the, you know, in the circle of life kind of way, and they don't even do that. Like,
also, the namesake, forget the name of the character, but how Sydney's like, oh, you know, she was my best friend and we were so close, and it's like, motherfucker, I watched Scream 1 like 3 months ago. They do not come across as all that close in that movie. Like, what? What are we doing?
It was it was laughable. It just, I couldn't with that. Like, I mean, I'm happy that I didn't spend a dime to watch it, because that's the only way I got any sort of enjoyment out of it, because it was so bad. Like, I'll admit, the thing that helped it the most is I had just, you know, a couple hours earlier finished watching Scary Movie 5, which is just somehow worse than Scream 7. But you know, oh man, I'm so glad I didn't go to a theater to watch this. I'm glad I didn't pay a dime to watch this. If I had have gotten a Paramount Plus subscription just to watch this movie, I'd have asked for a refund. But it just, oh boy.
And also, I don't know who has seen 1883 the early Yellowstone.
You're breaking out pretty good on my end.
Yeah, you're cutting out and out a little bit there. I'm still trying to figure out how that if it's as bad between you and Sean and some of the other reviews. I'm going, how did this movie make over $200 million? You know, obviously before, you know, you take out, like, I mean, only 45 million to make it. So, you know, it did make money, but still, it's just like, how did it, for as bad as it is, how did it make money?
I don't know that it made money, because 45 million to make it is not including marketing and distribution, which is driving me nuts how many people do not include that into it. Or the theater's cut, which, yes, people, is still a thing. Am I better now, by the way?
Yes.
Much better. Well,
Oh,
I mean, it made 214, so if it did make anything, it'd be just barely.
yeah, it probably made a tiny little bit of money. I'm going to run into the literal only store open in my small little town right now. But before I do, let me say this. I'm only going to be in there in 2 minutes. My MVPs for that movie are Timothy Oliphant and Patrick Dempsey for saying thanks, but no thanks.
Oh boy. Um,
Maybe talk about your favorite kill and least favorite kill.
that would require remembering any of them. Um, no, I mean, I guess a favorite because it's probably the only one I remember is the McKenna Grace kill at the beginning. Um, because it's probably the only one I really remember, like in detail. Least favorite, that one I can give you the bar with the spike. That one just pissed me off so much. And I don't even know why, but it did. It just pissed me off.
I mean, was it just stupid? I mean, because that's the thing. Sometimes they'll have kills that just make absolutely no sense, and like, how and why it just doesn't fit.
It's kind of like to me. It just felt like that. I guess the best example would be you played Friday the 13th, right? Okay, it was an environment kill, and it wasn't even a good one. Like that's basically the way I can describe it. You know, the the pike was part of the design of the bar, which on its face made no sense because why would you
Sounds
have a
like
pike?
something you'd see in scary movie.
Why would you have a pike like that in a bar where people are going to get sloshed, hammered, and likely fall all over themselves at some point in a bar? Um, like it was out of place entirely, and then to go through all that of like lifting them up to spike them down, like yikes! It was stupid and just pissed me off. Those are probably the two that stand out most because they're the two I remember most.
What do we got next? I haven't gone into the story yet, but what do we got next?
Next up would be Star Wars New Trilogy.
All right, so we talked about this last week. GQ magazine came out and backed up the deadline report from late 2024, stating that the Simon Kinberg trilogy that was being written was, in fact, Star Wars episodes 10, 11, and 12. It was really the first major backup we've heard since then. And since then, now, over the weekend, the Snyder himself, Jeff Snyder, on the hot mic, came out and said, yeah, like, why is this a surprise to people? They were always going to do 10, 11, and 12. This is not George Lucas's franchise anymore. And he backed it up with further information saying, as far as he knows, Kinberg is writing all three films, is in the process of doing at least deep in the script process for the first film and story treatments for the second and third film. So it's something that is, at least for the most part, planned out for the three movies. And he said that he had heard that he expects Rey, Finn, and Poe to return, but in classic, fashion, as the other three trilogies do, they won't be the leads. That there would be three new leads, and I cannot believe they just closed the store with the open sign off. Unbelievable, and the lights are off too. Well, I guess I'm not going in here. It's 10:18. Why are we closing the store at 10:18? 10:19. Sorry, 10:23.
I was gonna say I got your clock off by 5 minutes, buddy. But still, not a round time to be closing a store. That's for sure.
That's fucking dumb. Alrighty then. I guess I'm going to continue to drive. At least I can have the AC on and I'm not roasting anymore. Yeah. So, like, you had him come out and back it up. Is it really any surprise to you guys? Actually, let me change that. Rather than is it a surprise, um, what do you guys think the best direction is for them to go within episodes 10, 11, and 12? I agree, if you're not just doing some random trilogy, that it should be episodes 10, 11, and 12, and that you probably shouldn't jump, 50 or 60 years. I think the biggest jump should be, what's in between one of the two previous trilogies. One's 19 years, the other one's 30. Um, I think it makes a lot of sense. Um, I don't know what this one would be. I frankly have no fucking clue. But I also like the idea of, yeah, we know that those characters have mixed reception. I really don't mind Rey. Rey was never an issue for me. Daisy Ridley was never an issue with me. What she got to work with in the final two films, that was a little bit of an issue. But um, I'm fine with her character coming back. But I do like the idea that if we're going to do episodes 10, 11, and 12, let's do them with new characters as the lead. I still think there's a chance to get some excitement going here, despite the other trilogy ending so poorly. Uh, Randy and I talked about this a little bit the last episode we did, Johnny. Your thoughts on the possibility of episodes 10, 11, and 12, and where you'd like to see them go?
I mean, in reality, I've always thought they were an inevitability, not a possibility. Whether that came soon or somewhere down the road, they were eventually going to come. So obviously, no shock or surprise for me in that regard.
That's what she said.
So like, I'm not in any way shocked or surprised in any way by that. I don't want to say I'm reticent, but I am. I don't want to say I'm iffy, but without being the guy in the room, which I am not, I am worried about the who more than anything else. Because I looked this up while we were talking, while you were talking, is that as far as like a writer goes, Simon Kinberg is at best a 50-50 guy in quality.
Yeah, but I would also, I think that's fair to call him a 50-50 guy in quality. But I would also remind you that he's worked extensively with Dave Filoni before.
That helps. That certainly helps.
Too.
And that's why I'm saying, I'm not the guy in the room. So I don't know the pitch. I don't know the plan. I don't know that. But like, he does have that experience. He does have that knowledge and that background, which definitely is a saving grace. But I think for me, it's I'm worried in the sense of, I don't know that Star Wars can survive properly if another mainline trilogy doesn't do well. And I don't just mean financially, because, let's be honest, most of Star Wars profit comes not from the films, it comes from the merchandising. I think that's well, yes, but I mean, like, when Star Wars is running at its best, its money comes from the merchandise, because that's the machine. And even then, I still think they're making a lot of money, because I don't know the numbers, but I imagine Lego is paying them quite a pretty penny to continue to keep pumping out these Lego sets that they're doing, because they're making a shit ton of money on them. I'd have to look up the numbers on them. I'm sure they're out there somewhere, but like, I imagine Lego's got a pretty hefty contract for that.
But there's no doubt in my mind that that's the number one merchandise thing they still have, whatever the deal is there.
Oh, for sure.
Because Hasbro doesn't do much anymore. They just don't.
No. But I mean, I think, that's not surprising in the inherent nature of the market, right? Like, especially under the condition of the world we're in. Lego is Lego. It is infallible, and it is largely produced, I almost want to say locally. Like it's largely produced in in the States and places like that. So I think that helps, whereas Mattel is not. But outside of that, I think I'm worried about Simon only in that, because like filmically, I I think Simon is a guy, like, even just looking at his hits, they're unique. Like they can take assets that exist, but like, I mean, I'd say his best film is probably Jumper. And like looking at it, I think as far as like big legacy titles, he only has
What
one
does it
good one.
called? Event films?
He
Producer or
did, yeah.
writer?
Writer. He
I know he
wrote.
directed one.
He wrote The Last Stand, Days of Future Past, and Apocalypse, and Dark Phoenix.
I'll take Days of Future Past over Jumper any day of the week. Days of Future Past for me is top 10 comic book movie all time.
That's fair. That's fair.
Give me the Star Wars version of that, like literally.
Like Days, and that's the thing. Like Days of Future Past is the only one that's good in the legacy title, right? Like, he did the screenplay for Fantastic Four, and I don't mean the new one, and I don't mean the original one.
You mean the one that the fan four stick was people were calling it, that one?
Yeah.
I mean the one I fell asleep watching? God bless.
Yep.
Let's not forget George Lucas did more American Graffiti and Howard the Duck. So,
but I mean, like it's the thing, right? Like it's the uniqueness. I just have to pull this up because it's not showing. Like it's sort of his, like, to me anyway, it's his, I don't want to say untapped potential, but like if he's going to fit both roles in this, I don't know.
I don't think he's directed. I think they've made it pretty clear he's just going to be writing. I wouldn't be surprised.
Okay, and if he's just doing that, then I think it all sort of bounces out, like, to who's the guy in the chair. That's going to be important.
I think it's him and Filoni hand in hand doing the movies in terms of the writing process and setting the story. But I would suspect they're going to probably go with 3 different directors.
I don't have a problem with that, as long as the story is seamless. That's the big thing.
Well, I would assume it's going to be cohesive if Kinberg and Filoni are working on all three films in terms of getting the story set up. So it's really going to be the director's vision, the cast. I feel like an interesting idea for the trilogy is like the Republic rebuilding, or like part of the galaxy rebuilding after, the one thing that we didn't get, we don't know if we're going to get, is seeing everybody face off against what Thrawn knows is coming. What if the timeline is different in terms of what Thrawn was thinking, and it's Rey and company who has to fend it off, and then we end up having them we start episode 10 with them rebuilding after the war. Like, I mean, it's an idea about it. I mean, I don't know where they're going with it, but it's just, you want something. I mean, it'd give us a reason to introduce new characters, bring in the old guard, and kind of have them hand the reins off. I mean, it would be an interesting thing, depending on, just how it's done. I'd rather see, at least get an idea of what we're looking at versus, but we're so far off. So who knows at this point? We still have a couple other things coming down the pike before we even get to that.
It's the first pure Filoni project, because Starfighter isn't it. That's a Kathleen Kennedy project. This project was greenlit after Dave Filoni became the CCO, Chief Creative Officer. And then obviously he eventually went on to become the co-lead of Lucasfilm. But like, this is the first, thing that Filoni's doing, and Jeff Snyder said on the weekend that he believes this follows up Star Wars Starfighter, and that Starfighter is kind of like a one-off prelude to it, and that his information says that there will be a time jump between Starfighter and whatever this trilogy ends up being. So, um,
I mean, I hope that's the case. I think you need enough time to properly. I don't want to say rebuild, but like to a degree, you need to rebuild the galaxy to a functioning way, right? And I think it needs to sort of be peacetime, because like even if you look at like Star Wars as a whole, like I would say that really 1 through 9 is basically one timeline of events, right? Like as far as leading into each other. I don't even mean from like a numerical standpoint. I mean like the effects of 1 were still being felt in 9, which you kind of wrap that up with the Palpatine of it all, and I think this new trilogy needs to be outside of that, past that. The galaxy has to be functioning properly. It can't be another, civil war, as it were. I think the idea that, I don't even want to say, like, I think, like, to me, and this is just me sort of thinking, I don't even want to say extra dimensionally, but like just sort of my memories and thoughts on things, like, chiss have a long lifespan, right?
yeah, 90, 100 years.
So like it's safe to like have the thought process
Thrawn
of,
can still be around if that's where you're going.
and it is, but not in an enemy sort of way. I like the idea.
Relating to and working to forever.
I like the idea of this new trilogy being, we've always known Thrawn as a character has his eyes on the full board, right? Like he was using the Empire as a means to an end, as far as survival of the Chiss, survival of his people, and fear of whatever resides beyond. I think this is the time to pull that out. I like the idea of having Thrawn almost in a Hannibal Lecter-esque position here. As sort of the only one who can see the full board, the only one who knows or has any sort of information about this, and you can bring him into the, on the board that way. Likely, let's be honest, through Rey, but you can bring him onto the board. You'd probably at this point have, let's say, assuming they don't die, older Jedi Master Ezra, in whatever new sort of Jedi is built around Rey and the surviving Jedi coming together properly, would be nice, because that's one thing Luke's new Jedi Order didn't do in any way that we know of. It didn't bring in everyone. It didn't bring everyone under the umbrella. Whereas Rey now having the ancient Jedi text from Yoda and all of that stuff, you can do it properly. You can do the new Jedi Order properly and bring the existing Jedi under the same tent, and not just, well, they're out there, but actually part of it. You could have a Jedi Council of Rey and Ezra and Cal, sort of as your anchors, and build from there. Like they don't have to be major functions. Like, you can still be functioned around Rey, but like, having Ezra and Cal and these other characters as part of the bigger board.
And I mean, I know, given how the movie has gone this year, but you could have an older Grogu who's finally can actually have a speaking role. It's always a possibility because we don't know what happens to him.
I'll tell you, I'll say this. I think I said this to Sean when we were watching it. I swear to God, if that thing does not start speaking soon, I don't even know what to do with myself anymore. Like, looking at the timeline, he's the oldest of the fucking 3.
I mean, at
like,
this point,
at the very least, he's sort of comparable to them. Like, he should be close to age 2 Din himself.
So I mean, let's consider the time jump. Think about it. You have the 30-year time jump, and then another however many years they might do after Starfighter. It's very possible he'll be well over 100 and able to speak finally. Considering Yoda lived to be 900, I think it's safe to say that by at least in his 100s, he should be speaking just fine. One would hope, anyway.
I'm screaming at my phone right now. No, God, no. Please, no. You want to bring Grogu back, fucking jump 100 years in the future or something, you know what I mean? And I mean like 100 years post-sequel trilogy. Then bring Grogu back. Otherwise...
I mean, and that's the thing. He could be somewhere just off on his own after Din passing and, meditating, training, doing his own thing. Galaxy is a huge, vast, wide open space. So
I gotta stress, because I heard Johnny say the part about Rey with Thrawn or whatever. I don't think it would be that. Again, according to Jeff Snyder, who has a just wicked hit record on basically everything, they would not be the leads. They would be the supporting actors in this. They are the
I meant more
Ford,
in the
Mark
bridge.
Hamill, Carrie Fisher.
Yeah, I meant more in like the bridge between than the actual sort of focus. Like,
he also reiterated that he thought that Simon Kinberg's trilogy basically swallows the proposed Rey Skywalker New Jedi Order film. That would just get kind of sucked into the trilogy, and because there wouldn't be room to do
sense.
it. So.
They would have
to me, you should lean on the new characters. Create new, interesting characters. If you want Grogu to pop up in like the second movie or whatever, and give him the Yoda cameo from The Last Jedi, obviously done in a different way, fine. But I don't want to see him as a central figure, right?
Well, I'm not. I didn't say use him as a central figure. I'm just saying that show up, and that's all. I
think Randy was more suggesting him as another of those established voices on the council, as it were.
Well, even then, by that age, I still don't think he'd be that wise just yet. But we could, depending on where they go and like what we find out happens to Ahsoka. Maybe she shows up as a Force ghost. Maybe we get other Force ghosts that can kind of help give you established characters that people can gravitate to while the new characters develop and take over, as it were. Obviously, by the final film of the trilogy, full-blown character arc, and it's all theirs.
I think when it comes to Force Ghost stuff, I know people are going to be like, oh, well, this is a chance for Luke to come back. Luke. I think Mark Hamill is fairly out. The right amount of zeros can change his mind, but Anakin pop up again in something else, even without the Ahsoka connection, just given his track record on both sides. So,
well, and I think whatever happens with Ahsoka season 2, I think, given like the reports of the rumors of what we've been hearing about, I mean, he could end up playing a bigger role moving forward once season 2 ends.
Yeah, it's very possible. Wouldn't be shocked if the older version of Ryan Gosling's nephew pops up as one of the main characters in that trilogy. If Starfighter is going to be like a table setter, and if you follow along with what the new Jedi Order or new Jedi Academy thing was going to be for Rey, that was supposed to take place 15 years after the events of the Rise of Skywalker. Starfighter takes place 5 years after the Rise of Skywalker, so there's definitely aging possibility for the kid to be in his early 20s.
And at least be a Jedi Knight.
Yeah, for sure. Maybe even Rey's student, right? And Rey's in more of the Obi-Wan Kenobi role or Qui-Gon Jinn role. I think that makes a lot of sense. Speaking of Starfighter, I don't know if I'm doing these out of order, but we got to haul ass here on some of this stuff because my phone is getting low.
Yeah.
I'm not okay.
You're still in order.
So here's what we have. I guess spoiler alert here on Starfighter. Some leaks have come out over the weekend from a fairly reputable leaker, at least in the Star Wars TV space, who had a lot of the Maul stuff and Bad Batch stuff and stuff in not Tales of the Jedi. What's that other thing called? Star Wars Visions, and he's a known leaker for Star Wars TV stuff, but he came out with a bunch of movie stuff pertaining to Star Wars Starfighter, and we'll cover some of it here. And there's not a ton of detail. It's more of backing up some of the stuff that's already out there and providing some context to it. So, um, Amy Adams' character in the movie is force sensitive and is the mother to the young actor there, Flynn, whatever. Um, he's a force sensitive child, and basically the movie, we don't know why per se, but she sends him to find his uncle, and he's on the or they're on the run, and he has to get off planet and find his uncle. His uncle is Ryan Gosling, who plays more of the Han Solo, Canderous Ordo type in the movie. Uh, Flynn's character, I forget. I know we had the rumored character names there a few weeks ago. Don't remember what his was. I know it was on there. Is force sensitive, and you have bad guys who were not identified as to who they were, but Matt Smith playing some sort of general type character who is leading the charge on trying to find um, the kid's character, anyways, and Ryan Gosling hunting them down, and that Mia Goth's character is more in the light of like Balin and Shin. She's not like Sith cultist, more force sensitive user who's a mercenary and does dirty jobs. So she's on the hunt for them. Trying to remember, I don't have my own notes here with me, but and I left some out, like certain people's fates. But yeah, like to me, you have the premise of a good on the run movie there. You have and that Ryan Gosling and the nephew character do not get along at first. It's not like they're buddy buddy. They're kind of at odds, and the movie's kind of about them growing together. And like that's good. It's more of an adult movie, but still has some family themes in there. Um, and Matt Smith, I think, can do just about anything he wants to do. Um,
About
and
time you've
Mia
come
Goth,
around.
pardon?
About time you've come around.
Yeah, I know you haven't been into House of the Dragon, but House of the Dragon's worth watching just for him alone. And I'll
Hell, he
stand
was
by
the
that.
only good part of Morbius.
Well, that's not
Okay, now
surprising.
hold on a minute, Randy. I love Matt Smith, but
I loved his character. So
Um, I think you have just in that little bit of information there the basis of a much more interesting movie than what we just seen in theaters. And I know that's not a high bar, but I hear a bunch of that stuff. And then there's the rumor of this was not confirmed and did not come up, but that Amy Adams' character may in fact be because half of Luke's students died and half of them got away. That's what we know canon wise. That she might be a survivor from Luke's academy. So there's your Luke Skywalker connection in there. Now, who Ryan Gosling's trying to get the nephew character to for safety, I think everyone points to Ray, but it should be noted that Sean Levy said we had the movie planned out, uh, and then something happened where we had to change the main part of the third act and where the movie ends. Um, and and it wasn't expected, but they had to change it into something else. But that when they made the changes, it ended up being for the better, and just that the movie was much better for it. Daniel Ings, the Baratheon there from A Night of the Seven Kingdoms, who's in the movie, said that he thought the ending of the movie is just incredible and brilliant and will move people. And so I don't necessarily know if it's going to be Ray that the kid gets to, or a different Force user we aren't suspecting. Like, I'll throw this out there, and I think I might have threw it out there a couple weeks ago. But what I would do is, um, I would have him fucking randomly end up and poof Anakin Skywalker's there. He's the chosen one. There's some weird shit going on with him in Ahsoka season 2. Having someone come back to life, especially of his nature, knowing how much Hayden wants to be involved, I think that'd be cool. I think it's far fetched. I think it's unlikely, but and then other people put out, well, maybe that's how Ben Solo comes back. Is instead you're expecting Rey, and then at the end of the movie, boom, the kid ends up with Ben Solo somehow. I don't know. The kid's got to end up somewhere though, unless the kid. I mean, they go real dark with it. The kid dies, and Ryan Gosling dies, and the whole end of the movie is to build up the bad guys for the next trilogy. That would be certainly a twist. But in my opinion, fellas, there's more here to bite on than Mandalorian and Grogu by quite some bit.
Just wait until the movie ends and it's actually Grogu he's taking the kid to. I could just imagine you freak out when that happens.
I throw my popcorn bucket at the screen.
I legit was
I
just
don't
thinking
think your
you'd
son
do
would let
that.
you do that. I could, however, seeing you reach across to grab my popcorn bucket to throw it at the screen.
They've not said this. This has not been a leak anywhere that I've seen. I'm just thinking in terms of general story writing characteristics and sensible plot outcomes. I don't think there's any chance Ryan Gosling makes it out of this film. I think he's meant to be the sacrificial father figure type that gives you the emotional movement, and then the kid has to move on to whoever he ends up with at the end of the film.
What if it's Cal Kestis?
Well, we're going to get to that topic here very shortly.
The only and I pulled up the leaks while you were talking so that I can actually see them in full, but I don't know that you can open and close the movie with his presumable parental figure is dying.
Yeah, that's a lot for the kid to take in.
Like that just
losing both mom and uncle.
it just feels like
That's a one-way trip to the dark side. That's what that sounds like.
Yeah, like I don't know, like that just feels a little too awkward to me. Like I could definitely see it.
Palpatine returns again.
Because I mean, it's the way you're making it sounds like we're gonna get Amy Adams versus Mia Goth in a lightsaber duel at this point.
That's not that crazy.
I don't want to say the leaks don't. I mean, if Johnny's looking at them right now, I don't want to get into specifically what the leaks say about Amy Adams' character.
I mean, everything you said is pretty accurate to what I'm reading.
Yeah,
in descriptions. So there's nothing too crazy. I think the only thing is one sentence from the leak specifically that you didn't about Mia Goth's character. Is one specific sentence which could play, but doesn't make a lot of.
What's the sentence?
Plans that might involve training a certain someone.
I don't know if I remember reading that. Yeah, I don't know. Hey, that could be how it ends, right? Like she takes the kid. That would be a different direction.
Yeah, you're not wrong about that.
If you're going to have the mom and the uncle die, then sometimes happy. I get it's Star Wars, and you want happy endings, but sometimes happy endings don't happen. Like
if you're going to segue them into like the sort of big bad for a forthcoming trilogy, I think that works really well.
Yeah,
but
Mia Goth is a hell of a talent, and then you'd obviously have to recast the kid. But
that said, I think that's more of a ending of the first part of a trilogy than a standalone film type thing. But it would definitely be a holy shit, I can't believe they did this thing, which a kick in the pants
10,
like that would be good.
It ends on a downer. Episode 10, basically Rey helps turn him back to the light side of the Force. Maybe, who knows? I guess it's a wait and see proposition at this point. So
it'll be interesting, that's for sure. I definitely we've said it before. I'm far more excited for this film than I ever was for the one
For
we just
sure.
watched.
The writing talent, the talent behind the camera,
The
who's
actual acting
directing
in front
it.
of the camera,
Yeah, this is, it's a
real
star-studded
people.
affair. Real people helps too, yes. I'm looking forward to it. What do we got next here? I know we gotta get going.
Next up, we have the Cal Kestis.
Yeah, so a couple of gaming insiders came out, I believe it was over the weekend, and said that they heard that in Jedi 3, which is being worked on right now, that the time jump will be bigger than the time jump between Jedi 1 and 2. That time jump was 5 years, but they hinted it could be significantly bigger. So it makes me wonder if they are going to jump into the original trilogy and we're going to play within the events of those films, or if we're going to jump even further and do something post original trilogy, but to expect a much older Cal Kestis in Jedi 3. And I think that's a good idea, as long as Cameron Monaghan can pull it off and he has a very young sounding voice. So as long as he can work on um, having a older, more experienced voice, I'm down for it. Definitely take a time jump and go do something else.
Yeah, from the things I read, it sounds like an older, more grizzled Cal Kestis while he struggles with his demons from the previous game, essentially. I guess one of the rumored things that I saw was your actions can determine whether you fall to the dark side of the Force or go to the light side. One pushes Marin away, one brings her closer. Like there's this whole system that sounds like they're rumored to be implementing that will basically all your decisions will affect the outcome of the story, which I think is pretty cool. If they pull it off and they pull it off well, I mean, Respawn
I
is.
thought both of the first two games should have had more of that.
I agree. I feel like there was things you did in both games where it's like that was a bit dark sidey there, man. What are you doing? So
I don't mind linear when it's canon linear, right? Like I don't, I love I love RPGs, where you can play both sides of the coin and have both stories play out. But at the end of the day, something's got to be canon. And
Just don't play MMOs with this guy. All he does is choose evil shit.
oh yeah, right. That's accurate to 0 percentile. I do choose dark when I'm playing a dark character. No, I pulled up the article where we're talking, and it's Tom Henderson. He's quoted as saying considerably older Cal Kestis, possibly more than 5 years older this time around, which was the number that passed between the first two games.
Yeah, it sounds to me like they might do something post original trilogy.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I don't know anything factually, but this week is Summer Game Fest, and the timing of this article coming out today kind of feels like somebody's starting to prime the pump, as it were, since in the article, I pulled up the Vice version of this article, Tom Henderson said he's had this information for over a year. So to sit on it for that long sounds kind of like somebody told him something they weren't supposed to tell him yet and told him, keep this on the back burner. We'll tell you when you can say it. And he got the green light to say it. And, I don't know anything about there being, but I mean, I do know, like I said, Summer Game Fest is this week. So there is, I wouldn't hold my breath, but I would not be shocked for, an announcement to come towards the end of this week.
I'll just say it. Give us a post original trilogy story where Luke Skywalker can be a sidekick character.
I'd be down for that. I did read also that I thought was kind of neat that Disney and Lucasfilm said that there's more stories for Cal Kestis in the future as well. So,
Yep.
TV series, movie appearances, something. I mean, or more games. Either way, I mean, I liked the character. I liked how they've portrayed him. I mean, he's been well written, well acted. I'm all for getting more Cal Kestis.
they were definitely smart in using someone who has chops for this. Like it was always a concern, like when they first started this project back at the beginning, and we learned they were going to lead into that sort of mocap acting style of action that was very prevalent at the time. You're always a little concerned about who's going to be doing it, but I love Cameron Monaghan. I have for a very long time. So I think he has the ability, and let's be honest, he just gets older, as we all do. So, he would fit in the world outside of this. Like if he pops up hypothetically, if he had popped up in Mando and Grogu, he would have fit perfectly fine because of the timing and his age proper and all that. Like that's why there was for a long time before we knew about Luke in the end of season 2 of Mandalorian, there was a lot of thought that could be Cal, which made sense, so. Or even was it The Rock, right, in season 2, when he kind of reached out to Luke,
right?
That that Cal would show up there.
Mm-hmm.
I even remember we talked about it at the time, Sean. You and I on the podcast at the time, him being a possibility for that role. So yeah, it fits, it works. I like the idea of them leaning into it and doing more with him because he is phenomenally talented.
What do we got next?
Next up, we got the box office collapse of Mandalorian and Grogu.
Yeah, I got to reiterate this. I agree with Johnny's sentiments from a few weeks ago. At the end of the day, it's not our money, so shouldn't lose sleep with it. But every franchise, including Star Wars, is susceptible to go on such a bad streak that they just stop doing it for a while and it disappears. Randy's probably old enough to remember this. Johnny and I are not. And it wasn't because of financial failure, but Star Wars was almost non-existent from 1986 to 1991. Like, it's not like it is today when you're waiting significant time between movies or shows or whatever, where it's still popping out a bunch of other shit, like toy-wise and book-wise or comic-wise or anything. There was nothing. It was just gone.
It was just video games at that point, like comics, books, and video games. That's all it really was. Like in the 80s, they had the droids and the Ewoks cartoon. But beyond that, with Nintendo and the Atari, like they had video games, and that's really that's all you had.
Even the books took a break. It was
Yep.
Timothy Zahn's Heir to the Empire trilogy that brought the books back.
And that was in the 90s. So it's like, yeah, that's all we had. That's all I had. I had my toys and I had my video games. That was it. I didn't get, and then of course, as the anniversaries hit and we got, special editions and things, finally as the 90s kind of pushed on, we got more and more Star Wars. But yeah, it really was. There was just nothing there beyond a few little things. And, it was a dark time, I mean, it sucked, but I'm glad that, that everything's picked up. But right now, I mean, think about a bunch of franchises right now, not just Star Wars, that have just had misses. You think about Harry Potter, DC, like all these franchises that have had movies and had a good, strong presence. Hell, Star Trek, like now we're seeing just that it's not as big as it once was. A lot of it's franchise fatigue. A lot of it's just poor quality going into some of this stuff. It happens to everything. We're seeing it in horror movies too, like Scream.
It's, we can speculate on the numbers all we want, and we can, hem and haw and, talk about, how much they actually need to make a profit and what's profitable and how much profit is what they want. But, like I said, we're not the Disney number crunchers, so we're never going to have an accurate depiction of that. So like all we can do
but
is
let's be real. Let's not dismiss it though.
Oh, I'm not. And that's what I'm saying.
There's people that get paid to be experts at the box office game, which is where the information I have comes from. And I know Randy said he had read somewhere that it needs to be 475, and 475 is not even close. Like, just do a simple Google search based off of a $300 million production budget, marketing budget combined, and it might even be 325 when you include distribution fees.
Yeah, it's 5 to
And
600 million.
600's the low end, 750's the high end. There was some tax rebates. The experts are saying they need to be somewhere between 575 and 600 to break even, which is generous considering what all the other information says. And
Yeah, that
guys,
70% week 2 drop just killed it. There's
yeah,
no way. There's no way to recover from that.
That's the point I'm trying to make. Like, Disney itself, yeah, sure, their bottom line is not going to be hurt by this. In fact, in some ways, it may actually help them as far as abating their own natural corporate tax bills. Like, they may see this number and be like, "Oh, thank God, we don't have to do anything stupid." You know, like, they naturally lucked into this. But like, you see an opening weekend box, like a Memorial Day weekend box office, and you think, "Oh, okay, I don't want to say we might be onto something, but you know, nearly 100 million domestically over Memorial Day opening. We're like, okay, maybe." And then in your second week, you drop off that much to the point, like, not even are you not number one, because let's be honest, Backrooms opened up stronger than anyone expected, really. And that's inherently not an issue, because let's be honest, one's a horror movie, one's, you know, something you take your kids to. That's the problem. You drop off 70%. It's just, you can't sweet talk your way out of those numbers.
70% off of an already not overly amazing first weekend.
It just is. It's not good. Like, the look is not good. Like, Star Wars is, and we talk about this, like, as there's like, you tell the stories that you went to see episode 3, what, 5-6 times in theaters?
Episode 3 I seen 4 times. Episode 2 I seen 6 times.
Okay, so but like, that's the point. Like, you know, those are the success stories. You know, like, Star Wars thrives on, and I say this with love, the nerds going back to see it over and over again because we love it.
Yeah, it's a combination of capturing the nerds for repeat viewings, but also being so good that the general word of mouth gets the general audiences out there. It's, hey, a Star Wars back. Let's go see it in movie theaters. But the marketing for this movie was abysmal to begin with.
What marketing? Like, let's be honest. What marketing?
And yet they somehow found a way to tally up a $135 million marketing bill. I mean, I guess 10 million was for the Super Bowl thing. There's money not well spent.
Nope.
But like, I think they're at 263 now after basically 2 weeks being open. That's not good, because you make most of your money in those first 2 weeks. This thing's probably going to end around, unless, you know, it gets some wild word of mouth and people really start going back. And now that it's being pulled from IMAX theaters, it's going to make even less money.
Like, that's another thing that we're just kind of glossing over. Has a Star Wars movie ever been pulled early from IMAX? Like, ever?
Not to my knowledge.
Like, it like, obviously you're going to have theaters drop off the longer the run is, right? Like, that's just the inherent nature, especially with other things coming up behind it. But like, the movie it's being replaced in IMAX theaters by wasn't even scheduled for an IMAX release. That's how bad this thing is doing. That, you know, places where there should be havens and protectorates of, you know, the box office tentpole, like Star Wars, superhero movies, and things like that, is being replaced by things that were so not highly thought of that weren't even scheduled to be there. Like, that's bad.
I think if the movie can pick up some steam, which is not impossible, but it's unlikely at this point, but if we can pick up a little steam despite not having IMAX showings here shortly, there's a chance it might get to like 450 worldwide. And it's probably more likely only to get to 400.
I was going to say, I think 4 is the throw a party and celebrate number for this movie.
Well, that's if it's 4, they're losing $200 million, and they can talk tax write-offs all they want. It kind of, I only have 8% left on my phone, so we got to be quick with this. But like, if they lose 200 million off this movie, and God forbid it happen, they lose 200 million off Starfighter. My guess is they will put a pause, and they will either seriously consider selling the IP or completely resetting everything and going, okay, this isn't working. We're losing too much money here. Like, you can't lose $400 million off of 2 movies back to back. I don't care how good you think your merchandising is, which for the Lego side might be good, but where it used to be for them, it's nowhere close. On like the Hasbro shit, you can't lose almost $500 million almost in 2 movies if it comes out to be that. I'm not saying it's going to. My hope is Starfighter is the rebound, but I I don't know. I thought this movie would do a little better than what it's doing. I did. Even though I don't like the movie, that doesn't mean I wanted the movie to fail. I thought and I was hoping that the younger audiences would come out to it more. And then I seen the movie and it's just like, you got to be wearing some really rose-colored glasses. No offense, Randy. To want to go see this thing more than once and pay your hard-earned money to do that. Um, it's not good. There's no real positive spin. I see people trying to make positive spins out of it and moving the goalposts, and it kind of drives me nuts. But um, sometimes you just got to call spade spade. Like, look at the Rise of Skywalker. Go look at what that movie was made for and what the production budget was on it. At the end of the day, Disney only made maybe $50 to $100 million off that movie. Some people look at the fact that it made like almost, I think, 1.3 billion worldwide, and they go, "Oh, it was a raging success." Go look how much that movie cost. It was not a raging success. They made some money off it that I'm sure they're happy about, but considering where they started with, um, the first 3 movies that released in the Disney era, it was a massive downfall. And now we're
Yeah,
talking about,
the budget was almost 600 million for Rise of
yeah,
Skywalker.
yeah, that's with marketing and distribution, and then the theaters get their cuts, and you're looking at basically, I think you're right, it was like 1.15 to break even, and it made 1.2 and change. Um, you, it's a, I would say you got to start finding a way to make these movies for less, so that the franchise's health can pick back up. But I'm shocked that when you go see The Mandalorian and Grogu, and you find out that that movie with next to no cast and very, sorry Zach for saying this, but uninspiring set locations, this thing cost $165 million to make. That's just fucking downright crazy.
Yeah.
Johnny, you want to bring up the Halloween thing here? I only got 5% on my phone, so.
All right. So today we got an entire new map for the Halloween game coming out this September. It is the Haddonfield Town Center map. If you head to the HalloweenGame.com website news, it's the newest article there. You can see all of the pictures, all of the. There's a video tour of the entire map, but we're just going to hit the high points, the different locations that are confirmed to be in it, and all that, because we didn't really get much more than that. It's literally just a new map and the things within it. We did get something in one of the pictures that we will touch on as we get to it. But you have Nichols Hardware, which is what you expect it to be. It's a hardware store. You got Patty's Pub.
Silver Shamrock masks are in there.
Is that in Nichols Hardware? I thought that was in one of the others.
I believe it's the hardware store.
Okay, well, then we'll just get onto it right now, because it's not in the picture they show, and I thought it was in the picture for the location. But we do have that somewhere confirmed that the Shamrock masks are featured in the game. We got Patty's Pub, standard small town pub. The A-Side Music Store. I'm hoping there's going to be some fun environmental kills with the instruments that are strewn throughout this place. We got the Hill Garden Center. Nothing really fancy there. The post office, Margie's Auto Repair, and Cemetery. Those are all three listed in one. So, like, guys, we can relive the ending of Halloween Ends. Are you excited?
Well, I mean, if you think about it, you get some tombstone kills, but also, I mean, the Easter egg of, Judith Meyer's tombstone, being able to find that, stuff like that while you're just exploring or trying to escape. I mean, that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
I mean, all around, it sounds like a lot of places to hide, a lot of cool, innovative kills that can be had by Michael Myers, which is always a bonus in a game like that. So yeah, it sounds like they're really thinking things through, and I just kind of hope the execution's there in terms of just like the character models, hit detection, things like that. Not just clipping through a wall because just stuff we saw like in Friday the 13th. Even though that still kind of added a layer of fun, but still, I'm pretty impressed. I liked how it looked.
Yeah, I think it looks great. I love just the look. It feels very middle America, like Haddonfield should. You get that small town 80s feel that I like. It looks good. I mean, check out the video. It's on YouTube, posted by Ilphonic directly. You get a full tour of the town and all of the different locations in it, so you can see all of the specific environments better than you can through the images. But I'm excited for it. I think it's we needed a map like this, I think, because it's one of the things we've talked about a lot, is having sort of that central Haddonfield downtown core type environment versus the residential stuff we'd seen to this point.
I think it looks really good. Not only does it look good, I think the size of the map is almost surprising. Like it's a fair size map. So that intrigues me for sure. Randy, was it the impromptu episode we did where someone in the chat said that we were going to get a look at first or the story mode there? I don't remember if they said it was supposed to be last weekend or this upcoming weekend.
No, I think it's supposed to be this upcoming weekend at it's probably at what Johnny what Johnny mentioned. I think it's this weekend.
Okay, well, we'll have to keep our eyes out for that because they've been very hush on that so far. But so far from what we've seen, it looks good. I'm looking forward to getting this game and playing with y'all on here, and I think it'll be a lot of fun. But that's going to do it for our show because my phone is now down to 2%. So let's get through these outros really quick. We are working on a plan for Patreon content. We're also working on a plan for a little Halloween in-story radio show, if you will, which hopefully will debut here in the next couple of weeks before House of the Dragon Season 3 starts. We'll probably try to get Johnny to be around a little more prior to that because I don't know how often we'll see. I mean, we'll hardly ever see him on the Mondays unless he randomly decides to watch House of the Dragon Season 3. So we'll try to get to some of that. Leave a comment if you're watching this after the fact. I know we had good audience numbers for last week's show that weren't even part of the live audience. It's nice to see an uptick again, not just for the Halloween stuff, but for the Star Wars stuff too. So really appreciate that. And as always, you'll get our candid, honest opinions on everything. We're not here to serve an agenda. We're just here to tell it like it is and see where the cards lie. Randy, where can everybody find you at?
Currently, just right now over on X at Giggity Giles. Other than that, once the football season gets going, we'll talk more about sports for then. But for now, that's where you can find me.
In the words of Dustin last week on the impromptu show that Johnny was not here for, he said, because Johnny's not here, well, I'm going to say because Johnny's here, I'm going to use it. I'm here, there, and everywhere. Johnny, where can everybody find you at?
Well, here, there, and everywhere. I'm gonna hit my bit.
Yeah, Dustin had a good chuckle hitting your bit when you weren't here.
Oh, I appreciate
Um,
that. I was watching, but I wasn't really listening. At the end, anyway.
Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, that is going to do it for us tonight. We might be back before Monday if there's any news that warrants it. Otherwise, we will see you next Monday. Same bat channel, same bat time. Like, comment, subscribe, all that good shit that helps other people find our videos. And we will see you again when the Empire calls. Unless they don't pay their phone bill.